Hello, everyone. Welcome to the fifth episode of Creative Writers and Illustrators. And I have with me today Menaka Raman, author of this beautiful book. It has been illustrated by Ekta Bharti, and it is a book which is about 30,000 words. And it's set in the city of Chennai and weaves sibling bonding, family bonding, friendship. There's cricket and menstruation. I mean, so many things. They've been beautifully woven into a wonderful YA novel. And I'm very glad you wrote this, Menaka. It's amazing that people can write a book set in Chennai and explore so many different characters.
Thank you so much, Shyamala. I'm really excited to be here. And thank you for saying such lovely things about Loki.
Yeah. So on to my first question. Okay. So this book came out of an idea, right? It was after a conversation at a bookstop, and you have credited her, by making her as the women's cricket team, right? The chief of the women's cricket team. So tell us more about the conversation and what was so powerful that you decided it has to go as a book.
So this was actually a few years ago, and I have two boys, and I would, go down to the bus stop every morning to drop them off at school, and lots of kids coming and going and milling around and chatting with each other. And one morning I saw Dishita Bajaj, who's the young girl who I had this conversation with, and she had a cricket kit with her. And, it was unusual, not because most of the girls that I knew would play tennis or they were playing football, but I hadn't really seen a girl at the bus stop before with this big cricket kit in her hand. And she was really, really excited that, to go and start this coaching and all of that. So I think that was just the first idea, because I knew at the time that that at that school, the cricket program was a fairly, it was all boys who would play. Whereas with all the other sports, it was a really good balance of boys and girls, whether it was basketball or football or swimming or athletics. It was really good gender balance. But I knew that cricket in particular was just boys throughout grades. And so I think just that, to me, I remember thinking, well, I wonder what that's going to be like, to be the only girl with all these boys training for cricket. And at that age of, maybe 10, 11, which is anyway a kind of difficult age to navigate. So I think I found that very, very interesting. So that kind of had given me that first little kind of idea of, this one girl on a cricket team full of boys. So I think I just found that really, really interesting. And then, of course, from there, I think once you start writing a book, the story goes in whatever direction it kind of wants to. But that was the starting point.
Yeah. So quickly tell our viewers what your book is all about.
Sure. So my book is about an 11-year-old girl called Loki, and Loki stands for Lokanayaki, which is a name she absolutely detests and hates. So she insists everyone calls her Loki, and Loki is cricket crazy. She lives in Madras. She has a brother and parents, and she's the only one in her family who's completely mad about cricket. And in the neighborhood she lives in, there's a local cricket team called the Temple Street Tankers, and she really, really wants to play for them. But the team management has these slightly outdated, antiquated notions about who should and shouldn't play cricket. So they tell her it's an all-boys team and you can't play. So Loki gets an idea from someone that, from a neighbor of hers, actually, a young lady, that, she should fight for her rights. And so she decides to start a petition. And then the petition, through a series of events, kind of takes on a life of its own, and matters go out of Loki's hands. And she becomes a bit of an internet sensation. And it's about, through all of these things, what happens in a situation like this, where you start out with a certain set of intentions, and then, other forces come into play, and you might fall out with family and friends, and how do you mend those relations, and without letting go of what you really want to do. And then it all culminates in this moment.
So you've written a lot of picture books, that's like absolutely making the text lean, 250 to 500 words. And then you've been a journalist for so many years. That's again, lean text, 1,000 words, 2,000, And then suddenly you made this leap into writing a 30,000 word book. So was that easy? I was just wondering, because the the skill of writing all these three formats is completely different.
Right, right.
So how did you prepare yourself, or did it just flow easily? To me, it flowed easily. You know, I look at the language and, you know, so many places. I think throughout the book, it's a book you created with a lot of love and a lot of joy. You enjoyed writing yourself this book.
That is true. I have to say, you know, I don't mean to sound like very, you know, I know how a lot of, and there were moments, I think more my own procrastination to kind of an inertia to get going. But I think there came a moment in writing it when I just had so much fun with it. And I think for me, that was it. You know, I'm going to write what I really feel like writing and what I'm going to enjoy writing. And then I said, and then whatever happens after that happens. So I did really, really enjoy writing the book. I enjoyed creating all these little side characters and people in and around her neighborhood. They were great fun to think of and to write. Yeah, it is. I think picture books you have to make this engaging story and have a complete story arc and narrative and an interesting character and a plot turn and a climax in 250 to 500 words. So that is challenging. Again, with columns, it's a deadline every week where, like, you need to send it by 11 o'clock on a Tuesday. You have 500 words to say what you want to say, which I think are very good for the discipline of writing. I think it really forces you to kind of say what you want to say in a very precise way. So yes, writing Loki was a lot more freeing. It was like, because in my mind, I didn't have a word limit. I decided that the book will end when it ends. And I really didn't know whether that would be 15,000 words or 30 or 40. So it really, you know, there was a moment when I said, okay, this is done now. So that way it was very freeing to be able to kind of write and, you know, kind of explore these little quirks and characters and side stories and things like that. I think the only challenge of it is, of course, going back and make sure you've tied any plot lines and closed it neatly and nothing's hanging and stuff like that. So that was a challenge which I had to make sure I did.
I love the characters you have created for the book, you know, Lucy Loki, Bonda Balaji, Armpit, Mridangam. You know, humor has again flowed effortlessly. You can see that throughout the book. You know, are you a humorous person? I mean, how did it come so effortlessly? Because I read your articles in Hindu and I read your blog posts. So, I mean, there is a tinge, right? But then to maintain that humor throughout the book, throughout the chapter, that's not an easy feat.
Well, thank you. I think whether I'm a funny person or not, you have to ask my friends and family, and they'll probably tell you how funny they think I am. Right? Not. Yeah, I did. It's not like I set out to write a funny book. I think that then becomes much harder because you're second guessing. Is this funny? Is this joke going to land? But I knew that I think they're just searching for kind of this everyday humor. And I think how children do, right? They like to give nicknames to teachers they don't like particularly, or to their principal, or to people in their, in their building and neighborhood. Children like to do those things. And so I think that was, and I remember I've done it myself when I was younger. So just to kind of bring in some of those things. So yeah, I don't think I set out to make it funny, but if people find humor in the situations, and I'm very happy. Then that's always lovely to know.
There's a lot of Chennai and a lot of cricket in this book. So how did that happen? You know, I know you grew up in Chennai, so you shifted to Bangalore for I don't know how many years. You lived in
about 7 years now. Yeah, so I think I grew up in Madras. I finished school and college in Madras. I worked there for a while. Then I got married. We've lived in Bombay and London and back to Bombay and now Bangalore for the last 6-7 years. So I think I chose to set it in Madras because even though I've been away from Madras for so many years now, I still very much think of myself as one Madras Punna. And also there was a classmate of mine. So, you know, when we were in school, we were all really cricket crazy. All of us, my entire class. I remember I'm trying to remember if it was 95 or 97. I remember someone even sneaked a radio into school and we would find we would say, ma'am, we're going to the lab to do this, to finish this practical. And we'd go on the third floor and we'd try and tune into the cricket commentary. And we would beg our parents to let us take the day off from school if there was an India-Pakistan match, and to be able to go to MAC and watch a match was like the highlight of, our year and things like that. So I think, cricket was very much a part of that feeling. Of course, we all had crazy crushes on Rahul Dravid. And, so it was very much a part of our daily conversations and all of that. So, and I had a friend actually who was so knowledgeable about cricket. I mean, she could really discuss the game, and she knew the trivia and she knew the statistics, and she knew, which player batted like this and who was a spin bowler, and she knew all of that. So there's a little bit of her, and she was my best friend in school. So there's a little bit of her as well in Loki. So for me, really, I couldn't think of setting this book anywhere else other than in Madras.
One of the chapters, chapter number 9, is completely made of tweets. So again, I can see you have thoroughly enjoyed yourself. Difficult. I know you are on Twitter, but again, you explore, you literally push the boundaries and explore different forms of writing, and I think that's a credit to an author. Not everybody can pull that off, but that chapter has come out so beautifully. How did that happen? Was it difficult to write, because this is not even like a picture book? You have to literally cut down the words and just say express the right emotion.
Right. I mean, I think when I did that particular chapter where the tweet goes viral, I am on Twitter, but I'm really scared of Twitter because it is this it's like this hotbed of, controversy and very, a lot of inflamed opinions and feelings and things like that. So I myself am a little tentative on Twitter. But so what I did do for this, but it is very much a part of our lives. And I think social media, maybe not Twitter so much, but definitely Instagram and places like that are things which all young people today, they all have Instagram accounts, and they're all posting pictures and talking about their lives and things like that. And I think Twitter is maybe a few years down the line, maybe what they'll gravitate to, once they're out of this tween and teen phase. But I think writing it I spoke to a couple of my friends who were very active on Twitter and said, tell me about these Twitter debates that have really gone viral in the last, in the last year, which I can go and look at. So I can see how these things kind of unfurl and take on a life of their own. So, they'd given me some links to that. And I went and looked at all these tweets and this whole conversation that was happening around it. And I knew I also wanted that chapter to be a mix of both the positives on Twitter, because I think social media can be really, good at times talking about certain topics and amplifying certain things. But then there's also the negative side to it. There are the trolls and there are the haters and all of that. And both are equally, opinionated on the medium. So I think I wanted to show that mix of both sides of it. But yeah, I did enjoy writing that hugely.
And I loved your take on the TV series, Shining Virtuous Lamp of the Family. Snake goddess returns from the underworld. I mean, to a person who does not follow the serials, we both know what you're talking about. It may seem like, what is she talking about? But I think for people who actually watch the regional channel, they kind of get it. So it's more of a Chennai book, which Chennaites are going to, really relate to. There are so many elements from the book. So what is your take on these serials? Do you watch them? Or
I'm subjected to watching them when I'm in Madras. So when I'm visiting family members and the extended family in Madras, and TV watching is usually the TV is in the living room, and please no one in Madras get angry at me for saying this, okay? But if you go to someone's house in the evening and they're watching their TV serial, it's a very sacrosanct experience. The TV serial will continue even if you've come to see it, and you'll have the conversation while it plays on. Because it's such a huge thing, right? The evening is blocked out for this experience.
Yes.
And, so I think over the years of just when I visited Madras and, been to, in my home, my in-laws' place and family and stuff like that, it's on, and everyone's kind of watching it. I know, for example, nieces and nephews who have, grown up in grandparents' houses watching Chitti and Mettioli, and they'll be able to sing all the, I've been to weddings where they'll be like, this is so-and-so's granddaughter, she's 5, she can sing the theme song for Chitti, and she'll sing it, and she'll know who all the villains. It's fantastic. It's an entire, wonderfully weird phenomenon. So I think it's growing up, and there's this one TV in the house, and it's here in the living room, and it's on. And, invariably, the mother will rule the remote control and will decide who watches what in the evenings. Yeah. So it doesn't matter if you want to watch something else, you are going to watch Kudumba Kuttavilakku or, Miracles of Sai Baba or something like that. Yeah. So it's very much a part of family life.
I can totally relate to that, because I dare not call my mother when she's watching those TV serials.
You can tell the conversation will be like, they'll be like, that's all you get on that.
Right. So, how did you discover Arifa?
So YouTube is I have 2 boys, they're almost 13 and almost 10. And YouTube and YouTubers form such a huge part of their life. It's like this big part of, that's a lot of the media they consume is in the form of YouTubers. And they have their, who they're fans of. And I know that somewhere in the back of my children's heads, they think that YouTubing is a very viable career path for them. I don't know how true that is. So I think, it just, and I knew that I wanted Regina and Rubina, Loki's friends, to have this very fun kind of personalities and be very kind of, and act as a bit of a foil to Loki herself, who is so sporty, who is a certain way, and, very kind of serious in her and one-minded in her intentions. So I wanted Rubina and Regina to provide that little bit of fun in her life and, that little element of what else is there. So, and I thought, makeup tutorials and makeup YouTubers and fashion YouTubers are such a big thing. So I really wanted for them to have that kind of an icon to look up to, so to speak, and kind of want to emulate.
Since you've grown up in Chennai, I mean, you've had so many experiences. How do you go around picking up selective experiences to fit into the book? There's this thing about the Godrej cupboard, tiny things that that's just one of the things. The streets and the people who live on those streets, the kind of the characterization. So
I think some of it is a bit of my own nostalgia and my own kind of memories of some of these things, but I didn't want to kind of tap into all of them and make the book feel completely unrelatable to a young person reading it today. So I kind of tried to pick on the things that I knew that maybe I had seen or I had some memory of kind of growing up, but I knew was still very much a part of the lives of children, growing up today. So I think most people will have an Godrej alamari, that's what you'll call it, an alamari, Godrej in there, somewhere in the house, which is like, either there are silk saris in it or something will be stored in it, and it'll be tucked away in a corner. So I think the kind of people in the book, the neighbors and things like that, like I didn't grow up on a street like that, but I knew that, but I did grow up in a street where everybody knew everyone else's business and everyone was kind of cued in on what was happening and things like that. And I think, gated communities are very much a thing today. And I've lived in gated communities now for the past 10 years. But I think so I am in that way in a bit of a bubble, but I think outside of this bubble, you will find that people still live in apartments and communities and areas where everyone knows everyone's life and, who is gone where on a holiday, who's got a promotion, whose daughter is going to engineering college, who has, not, or who's going out with who, all of these things. And that is very much a part. So I felt that would still be something that readers today could relate to and, find some kind of connect with their own life. So I tried to make it a mix of things that I kind of remembered from my own childhood, but that was still relevant today.
So, it's a very light book to read. You kind of laugh and you're like, yeah, you kind of, you root for the character and you kind of move with her towards the ending. Was it easy to write this book? 30,000 words, you said that, you just said, let the story take its course and you followed it. But were there points where you kind of wondered, what am I going to do? Or did it just like flow effortlessly?
Right. I wouldn't say it flowed so effortlessly. I think there was some, so I did about 3 to 4 drafts of the book. And I think every time and there were some points, there were some things that were there in the first draft that didn't make it into the second, that I kind of completely removed and said that doesn't need to be here, or this character doesn't really make sense, and I took them out. But I think even in the first draft, there was a point, maybe, halfway through, where I kind of figured out where it was going to go potentially. And then with each subsequent draft to really go back and say, this is kind of standing in the way of things, this doesn't work. And, and to kind of keep that tempo, I wanted to maintain a bit of that tempo throughout the book. And I didn't want it to, and I hope it doesn't kind of lag or drop at any point, but just to kind of keep that feeling of hurtling towards some kind of of an ending. And I think, sorry, and what was the second part of the question you asked?
Sometimes when we write books, we are like wondering, is this the right decision the character has taken,
Yeah.
Plot turners. I meant the plot turners, because right now the pace for me, I thought the plot turns happened at the right place. The pacing was perfect.
Thank you.
And that's not easy. It's not easy to bring all of that in the first book.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
This is a winner for me. This is definitely a winner.
Thank you. You've made my Thursday, Shyamala. This is lovely. Yeah, I think I always used to read these interviews with authors or listen to podcasts where, writers talk and say, and then at some point your characters just decide what they're going to do. And I always thought, that's not possible. What do you mean your characters decide what to do? That makes it sound like you're not in control of things as an author. And I never fully believed that. But I think there were certain points where I would just be writing and then suddenly, oh, she's going to do this next. And I had not thought of that before. I had not decided that that's what. So that did happen at a few places. But I think for example, at the end of my 4th draft, I went and rewrote the first chapter entirely because I didn't think it was working. Even though I was very attached to it, I thought this isn't the right way to start a book. And I rewrote that first chapter, which is something, a very wise author friend of mine had told me would happen. She said, you'll go back and that won't make sense for you anymore. So I did do that. So yes, I think some things kind of just happened organically as I was writing. Some of them were things that I had thought, like I always knew I wanted for there to be some form of a viral, kind of her story going viral and for her to gain some form of fame or notoriety through that. So I knew that would happen, but who did it? How did they do it? All happened as I wrote them.
Poetic Party is one of the most important characters. So how did she arrive in the book? Was that the way actually, when you first started writing, did you know that this is what she's going to be doing in the book?
I did kind of want it to be an anonymous person, who does, and I also, and of course, I don't want to give it away, but I also wanted it to be an older woman doing this for various reasons, and to kind of give Loki's, campaign and petition this kind of impetus that it needed to go out into the world. So I had said that, I had kind of decided, that would be it. And of course, the person who does it then happened a little later as I was writing the book, as I wrote, and okay, fine. This is who it's going to be.
Right. Congratulations. And again, I'm so happy you wrote this book. I hope you come out with the sequel because I can imagine so many plots which have actually happened now that she's got into the TV. Is there anything to tell our viewers? What will they miss out if they're not going to be reading your book?
Oh my gosh, what will they miss out? Well, I'm going to go out there and say that I think they miss out a fun, breezy, read, which is not just about cricket. I'm getting so many people saying, oh, my kid doesn't like cricket, so they don't want to read the book. But it's not just about cricket. It's and I think that whatever situation you find yourself in life where you really want to do something and maybe something standing in your way, you will relate to this book. So I think it's fun, it's breezy, and yeah, I enjoyed writing it a lot. So I hope people like reading it.